You're on, Sarah.
All right. Bishop's Peak, Mount Madonna, Cuesta Ridge, Carrizo Plains, Hazard's Peak, and the brand new Pismo Preserve. By living in San Luis Obispo, we are truly spoiled by the access we have to beautiful hiking trails, mountain biking trails, and my personal favorite, climbing areas. Today, I want to offer you something to pack with you on your next outdoor adventure, the knowledge of the impact on the landscapes that you surround yourself with. Outdoor recreation is a priority in this community, but only the respect that we give these places will determine their beauty. As an avid climber, aspiring wildlife biologist, and all-around outdoor enthusiast, I have done my fair share of romping around in our beautiful backyard. Because I'm able to enjoy these environments in this way, I feel a strong desire and responsibility to protect them. Protection of these lands starts small. With the simple action of staying on trail, you have the potential to maintain biodiversity. To get back to the landscapes I owe so much of my enjoyment to, I will be sharing with you why formal designated trails exist, what's at risk if they're abandoned, and some tips for staying on trail. The hallmark of protected areas is to provide access for visitors to enjoy beautiful environments while preventing the degradation of cultural and environmental resources. An important component of this is providing clearly marked, established trails. A 2010 paper published in the Journal of Environmental Management titled Spatial Exploration of Informal Trails by Wimpy and Marion shares that the creation of formal trails is part of a containment strategy which minimizes human impacts in parks and public lands. By concentrating foot traffic to durable surfaces of a limited network of trails, widespread degradation can be avoided. Another paper titled Impacts of Experimentally Applied Mountain Biking and Hiking by Thurston Reeder, published in the Journal of Environmental Management in 2001, shares that despite the luxury of established trails, a common problem in public lands is the user's tendency to go off-trail and create informal or social trails. The motivation for creating these trails is to access areas that are otherwise inaccessible, to take part in off-trail activities like geocaching, to take pictures, or just to create shortcuts. This image shows a network of social trails on the hike to Vernal Falls in Yosemite National Park. All of these red trails are social trails, and the only established trail is that yellow one. Although they might add convenience, these social trails duplicate routes in close proximity to each other and become very difficult to reverse, causing unnecessary harm to the environment. Their repeated use can cause vegetation loss, damaged soils, and the issue that I'm most passionate about, it can create inhabitable conditions for wildlife. Martin and Butler's 2017 paper, Understanding Off-Trail Trampling Impacts on Environments, published by the George Wright Forum, describes how hiking off-trail can impact plants by reducing vegetation cover, changing species diversity, and decreasing their reproductive ability. Additionally, in a paper by Pickering and colleagues called Comparing Hiking, Mountain Biking, and Horseback Riding Impacts on Vegetation and Soils, published in the Journal of Environmental Management in 2010, it is shown that invasive plants can hitchhike on boots and clothing, migrating and spreading from their original source to other plant communities, entirely restructuring them. In our own backyard, visitors are threatening the painted hills of Carrizo Plains for that one perfect Instagram post, their shoes having the power to introduce invasive species that are at risk of outcompeting the beautiful wildflowers. And if vegetation cover is insufficient, soil can become exposed, nutrient availability is altered, and this can reverberate throughout the entire ecosystem, impacting the plants that rely on the soil nutrients and the animals that rely on those plants. And these animals face other impacts too. Earlier this quarter, I attended a presentation called Balancing Conservation and Recreation by California Department of Fish and Wildlife's Roger Unger at a Wildlife Conservation and Management Conference. He shared his research at Carlsbad Highlands National Reserve, which looked at the impact of recreation on wildlife. He showed that the more we encroach on areas that were previously undisturbed by humans, the more the habitat is broken up and exposed, the more their daily patterns of activity are altered, and the more stressed the wildlife is. Wildlife prefers predictability, so if we are able to stick to the trails that are already determined for us, they know which areas to avoid. They can continue their normal behavior, and that means that you're less likely to stand face to face with a mountain lion next time you go hiking. Finally, sometimes wanting to stay on trail isn't the issue. It's finding the designated trail in a sea of social trails that's the problem. I once added 4 extra miles to a 10-mile hike just trying to find the trail. So even though I'm an advocate for staying on trail, I understand that good intentions aren't always enough. But I have some tips that will help you stay on trail. The first one is to plan ahead. Download an app like AllTrails or bring a map with you on your trail so you can check to make sure you're on the right route. Second is look out for stacks of rocks like these. These are called cairns, and hikers will leave them on the side of trail to help you figure out which way you're going when they're not clearly marked. And finally, if you see some of these signs, respect them. They mark areas that biologists are working on restoring to their natural state. With this information in your back pocket, I have one simple request for you. Stay on trail and encourage your friends to do the same. A social trail can cost you and future generations the access and ability to appreciate beautiful landscapes supported by healthy soils that provide food and shelter for wildlife. Next time you take on the Tri-Tip Challenge or romp up Mount Madonna to see the Christmas tree lights or go to Carrizo Plains for the next super bloom, think about the complicated ecological interactions that are responsible for the natural beauty that makes going outside so worth it.